It's World War III Watch. Let's just face it, it's already started. I'm here with co-hosts Craig Jardula and Nick Cruse. We are looking at Venezuela and amongst other places, because right now the big question, and I'll borrow this from an old Michael Moore movie title, who are we going to invade next? But it looks like Venezuela is taking the lead on this right now. And this was, we had George Galloway shared this out from a Hats Off post. Here's what's happening right now as far as the geography of the setting up the chessboard for U.S. invasion of Venezuela. Here it is.
15,000 U.S. Marines have now arrived near Venezuela, and what's happening in the Caribbean looks like the biggest military buildup since Iraq. Just off Venezuela's coast, Trinidad and Tobago has turned into a full-blown military zone. Meanwhile, the airspace above Puerto Rico has been completely shut down under national defense protocol. 2 U.S. aircraft carriers are already in position, and a third is racing in from the Caribbean. This could be one of the largest U.S. strike packages since World War II. Meanwhile, the U.S. officials are saying that there's no plan to attack Venezuela, but analysts are calling it the biggest military buildup since the Iraq War. In response, Venezuela has warned the United States that if an attack is launched, it will retaliate with its full strength. They deployed their Russian-made S-300V and BKM-2 air defense systems. Both nations are now on high alert, and tensions across the Caribbean are reaching a breaking point.
And then we had RT put this out, and this is coming directly from a Venezuelan official, that we wouldn't have last 2 hours in a conventional war, but Caracas plans to sow chaos with decades-old Russian-made gear in guerrilla-style resistance if U.S. attacks. And it's officially called prolonged resistance. Is this feeling like this is going to be us walking in to a Vietnam 2.0 or part 2 or whatever you want to call it? And this is an interesting diagram. If you guys can see that, this is the way we lost. If you guys are wondering, how did we lose Vietnam? Well, this is how. And this is all these different techniques that apparently we're going to have on the ground in Caracas, because as we know, we've been there. We understand how the revolutionary military groups work there. They are there are people's militias. There's a group called the Tupamaros. They're very active. They understand that when it's time to grab your gun, you grab your gun and you get positioned, and they're not joking around. And I think that that's the thing that maybe we're overestimating our narcissism, that we're going to be able to do this very easily. It's not going to be very easy, but either way, it looks like we're on the cusp of it. So let's start with that. Nick, how close are we before we start talking strategy and what's the outcome, how close are we for this actually happening at this point?
It seems like it's definitely going to happen. I warned people when Donald Trump increased the military budget to over $1 trillion. I'm like, guys, they're not spending that money for no reason. Like, they're planning to use that $1 trillion military budget. And it's been clear, and even the ruling class has admitted that United States sanctions is a failed endeavor in terms of what they want to accomplish. Like, it accomplishes mass death. There have been insane studies that showed the countless millions of people who died because of the United States sanctions over the last few decades. But it's a failure in terms of turning people against the government like the West wants them to. So United States sanctions, the only thing they actually accomplish in hostile military actions is rally the people around Nicolas Maduro. United States sanctions have been a complete failure. And when Edmundo Gonzalez lost to Nicolas Maduro in the last election, it was the ultimate sign that the West policies, that Washington policies, the UK's policies, France's and Germany's policies towards Venezuela was a complete failure. So it doesn't surprise me now. Well, actually, I would say, like, war always surprises me. But this was the only option they had left. The opposition party completely failed to win over the people of Venezuela. So now they're trying to take the oil and control the markets in South America by force. Since the sanctions didn't work, CIA covert operations didn't work. So as much as they want to avoid hot war, this is the only choice they have. But this will be catastrophic for the entire military-industrial complex, because we saw that they couldn't even defeat the Taliban. We lost every single war in the modern era. And we have a military that doesn't produce warriors. We have people who sign up for the military simply because they want free college. So how do you think these people are going to do versus people who are actively defending their nation against imperial aggression? This is why we lost to the Viet Cong. This is why we lose these imperialist wars of aggression. And now you have the global majority. This will be the last time I say, I'll pass it back to you guys. You have the global majority that is rallying behind Maduro. You have people who was critical of Maduro, who bought American lies against Maduro, like Gustavo Petro, for example. You have Lula da Silva speaking out against this. And that's showing the blunder of Washington policies, that instead of rallying South American leaders against Maduro, their policies done the exact opposite. And now you have China that is coming to the defense of Venezuela. You have Russia that sent air defenses. Yep. And you have high-level Russian officials who floated the idea of sending ballistic missiles. I don't think they will, but they floated the idea of doing that. So the world is rallying behind Venezuela, and I think this is just another disastrous United States foreign policy that is essentially brought by panic by the ruling class. But that's my thoughts. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously something that we've put the pieces on the chessboard. We've talked on the show a bunch about how you get half the country, or at least attempt to get half the country, because you got the Trump people that believe this garbage about the drug cartels, and there's fentanyl coming right from Caracas, which is completely disproven, totally untrue. We know this is untrue. And then you have this idea that like we have to protect us here. We have to fight them there to protect us here. That whole thing, and then we can just get away with a Secretary of War just being a judge, jury, and executioner every time he wants to take out a ship, a boat. It's usually fishermen, innocent fishermen in the sea in the wrong place at the wrong time, and then gloat about it on social media. So we see that whole thing that they can't call Maduro. They can't call Maduro that he has weapons of mass destruction, so they have to go another direction. So we see all that, and then on top of that, you got this Marina Corina. We call her,
Jesus.
Yeah, we call her Marina Coronavirus Machado. That's her new name for her. But because she's this Nobel Peace Prize winning, she's just a plague wherever she goes. But she's somebody who's literally lying, like in real time right now, lying about what Venezuelans want. She's saying 90% of them want us to invade. That's insane. Anybody that is believing this garbage needs to understand how ridiculous of a claim that would be. Even if you hate Maduro and you can make a claim that maybe half the people are against him, they would never vote for or say out loud, yes, please, American imperialist machine, come on in, do what you got to do, because we're incapable. You know better than we do how to fix our problems. Come help us, come fix our problems. That's never a thing. That's not a thing. I saw a poll that said only 3% of them maybe would consider something like that. But she's going around saying 90, and there are Trumpers believing this right now. Craig, how close is Trump at losing the narrative on this, or does it even matter if his base believes it or not? They're going to do it anyways. Does the base matter at this point?
The base does matter, and the base is still there. Let's not forget that we live in the most xenophobic, and that's the nicest fucking way to put it. We live in the most xenophobic nation in the world, literally, right? You know, this sense of entitlement from everybody across the board that's been here, even the immigrants, the children of the immigrants, like my Italian family and stuff, they don't, like I said, they always are looking at the immigrant as the problem. So many people think that if you fix that problem of immigration, and first of all, it's a made-up problem, that you'll fix everything. So they'll go along with it, and they'll go along with the narrative, because not only are we the most xenophobic nation, we're also the most propagandized nation. And the thing that's really bothering me, and by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this news that just happened the other day, the UK and Canada are no longer going to work with the United States military to provide information and leaks or anything to help bomb people in the Caribbean. They think it might come back and bite them in the ass. They look at it as being extrajudicial, and that they could lead to them going to The Hague. And they think it's against international law. Not so much that they haven't done anything against international law, but they think this is so bad that they don't want to even have a part of it. It kind of forced Rubio to make a statement, kind of like being, wagging his finger at the EU and Canada and the UK for doing so. So that's going on right now. But what this really bothers me about, and all those things that Nick said are so true. And there's so many things that we wrote about. Like we talk about them being, I think it was Larry Johnson said on Judge Knapp's show that Venezuela is Spanish for Vietnam, meaning that if you think Vietnam is tough, wait until you see this. And you're right, Matt. It's if you look at a topographic map of Venezuela, there's jungles and mountains and hills, and there's militias. There's armed militias in that country that since they kidnapped Hugo Chavez over 25 years ago, was it 25 years ago? And it was probably 15 years ago, I think it was, when they kidnapped him, that he actually had cities or communities or villages, all of them have a sergeant at arms and guns in each one of their villages. So if the invaders come, they get to the arms and they go to their spot. It becomes guerrilla warfare. So that's what's going on over there. And also, it's not just about the oil. It's all about the gold and the rare earth minerals and, who's going to benefit. And we've also talked about the 1930s map, the Club of Rome, where the United States is going to expand its territory to take all of Mexico and Central America and Venezuela and Colombia. And then it also has Canada and Greenland, right? That's something that was mapped out a long time ago, and it seems like they're trying to move towards a time of acceleration to get it all back. All that considered, the thing that bothers me the most, the fact is that not only do we understand that these boats that were being bombed and these innocent fishermen that were being killed, that those boats would have to refuel 20 times before they reach the shore of America, that 0% fentanyl comes out of Venezuela to begin with. We are avoiding the national discussion, which is the crisis that we have so many people in this country who are addicted to opioids. And that is a problem coming directly from who? Once again, Big Pharma. That's why we had such a hard time on believing Big Pharma, when they came along with their vaccine. When it came to the coronavirus, no offense to Marina, coronavirus, but that's why we didn't believe it. And now they're at the helm of a problem. Right? They're the ones who caused this problem. They lobbied the government to treat us like lab rats, to get us addicted. The ruling class was cool about it because of a very addicted, citizenry is an easy citizenry to control. So they went along with it. And we're not having that discussion. Why are there so many fentanyl addicts to begin in the first place? Because they were giving it like Pez candy and there was no repercussions. They got our citizens hooked on this stuff. And that's the discussion we are not having. I hope eventually we have that discussion. But once again, the party of individual responsibility, the conservative Republican Party, they're so about their own individual responsibility. Pull yourself up from the bootstraps. They don't want to take any responsibility for what happens with their country, what their foreign policy does. They want to blame somebody else. They want to blame somebody else for the national crisis of opioid addiction is here in America, and they're pointing the finger at the Latin Americans, and they're okay with it. That's the problem that's bothering me more than anything. We're not talking about what needs to be talked about. Big Pharma is to blame.
Yeah, according to the right wing, China is responsible for the fentanyl crisis in America. But we're the fentanyl crisis in China. If it came directly from China, you would think that China will be ground zero for the fentanyl crisis, right? It's not. Maybe your society is horrifically planned. Maybe Americans' brains are broken just because people labor are being devalued. They see their cities falling apart. Their water is polluted. Like barely any Americans are able to drink out of the tap water now. Like we got lead poisoning, and then they blame China and the Chinese Communist Party. Now they're blaming Venezuela for the drug problem. This is what Americans always do. They refuse to take accountability. One more thing I'll add, because you guys do amazing coverage on these issues. You brought up the UK refusing to share info with the United States on Venezuela, which I think is really damning and revealing, because the UK, they're the same people who still share intelligence with Israel. They had no problems being complicit with genocide in Israel. So what does it say that they are backing for the United States on this? It's probably because they realize that they haven't done enough pre-genocide propaganda dehumanizing South Americans yet. They haven't quite dehumanized the Venezuelan people among the British public where they realize they can get away with slaughtering them. What does that say? It kind of reveals their twisted mindset in the state of geopolitics. But please continue.
No, that's just this is well summed up. And I guess, the question being, do you need the base to be on board or not? I don't think you actually do. I think the frustration is that they are, and they still twist and turn. And like you're saying, Nick, about it's communist China's coming to get us. It's also, by the way, we're on the topic of what's coming to get us. It's Mamdani in New York City is now Sharia laws coming to New York City. Meanwhile, it's totally cool to have a reformed terrorist in the White House on the same freaking week, right? So like so the twists and turns as far as, and not understanding, I think that this is the real lesson. And I don't know if anyone on the left has figured this out, maybe a handful more people than on the right, but nobody really seems to understand in these two captured tribes. They don't understand that we bring on our own problems. The CIA creates these problems. I know, Craig, you didn't come out and say it, but I'll say it for you. The CIA creates the drug problems right here. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. We're in LA. We see the fentanyl thing happening in real time. This is not Maduro doing it. This isn't Xi Jinping doing it. This is our CIA creating this, and it's not the first time. We understand how the drugs, the crack epidemic. We understand that was deliberate. So we have to get out of this two-party duopoly and understand that they're working against us, their own people. Yes, it's actually happening. That's what's happening, not outside forces. So I don't know how much we can do with this, educating people. But again, I fear that if we actually wake enough people up, then what? They still have they still have the keys to the car. They still have, Pete Hegseth is still playing Battleship in the Caribbean. So how do you stop that? Even if you change people's minds about what's really happening, they can still do whatever the hell they want. And I think it looks to me like they just want to go down with the ship, kicking and screaming as empires fall. That's what they seem to do. They just go out kicking and screaming. That's maybe what we're living through right now.
Did you see that idiot from the Department of War when he says FAFO? Like, get the fuck out of here, you idiot.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I guess World War III it's in process. That's why we say it's already started. They're going to retroactively say, we've been into this thing since 2014, guys. We just didn't know it. So I think that might be what's happening here. But I guess that's all for this conversation.
Yeah, if you're American, I've been harping on this. I think everyone should. If you're a peace candidate, I think we've been too kind to the troops. To be honest, if you are American, it is your moral duty to convince as many people, to convince your relatives to not sign up for the military. If you hear any relative float the idea, you need to convince them to leave. If you're a parent and you send your child to die in Venezuela, if you send your child to die fighting Israeli wars, I don't want to hear the tears. You kind of deserve it. So that'd be the last thing I'll say. Because if you serve our United States military with their plans to go in war with China over Taiwan, that's upcoming. They plan on taking this war to Russia to the finale. Now they're planning on war with Venezuela. If you're a United States troops, man, I don't want to hear it. Like, any trauma that you go through for the next 5 years, I don't want to hear it, man. Because at this point, we have a moral obligation to drag people out serving this empire, because our ruling class will never stop until we dearm them. We had to dearm them by making it a social taboo to join their conquest against Venezuela. I don't want to hear bullshit about how you need free college. Give it a rest. That does not work with me. You don't sell out the global working class because you want to get ahead in this decadent system instead of engaging for class war. So I think as a peace movement, we need to start holding the ridiculous army culture accountable. We need to make it a sin to be part of this war machine. But anyway, I think I ended there because they really going to lead people to their death with these strategies.